Have you ever felt called to something greater, only for everything to suddenly start going wrong, as if your connection to the divine was weakening and your mission slipping through your fingers? Know that being chosen is not a guaranteed privilege. And if you're not careful, you might lose that status without even realizing it. There are invisible forces working silently to pull you away from your purpose. Ego, lack of discipline, toxic influences, fear, and even the misuse of your spiritual gifts. All of these can steal your calling and leave you lost along the way. And the worst part? Many people only realize it when it's already too late. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 things that can take away your status as a chosen one, and how to protect yourself from these traps before they destroy your mission. So tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like you were losing your spiritual strength without understanding why? Write yes if this has ever happened to you, and let's figure out together how to avoid this downfall. Being chosen by the divine is not an unchangeable gift, but rather a responsibility that requires constant commitment and vigilance. Many believe that once they are called to a mission, they will forever be safe on that path, but the reality is different. The calling comes with trials, challenges, and the need for continuous growth. The chosen one cannot become complacent or act as if they are immune to falling, because every step requires a renewal of faith and discipline. Those who don't understand this run the risk of losing their connection and consequently their purpose. The journey of the chosen one is intense, full of highs and lows, requiring them to always be aware of their spiritual state. Just look at great spiritual leaders throughout history. Many started with great strength, but succumbed to pride, exhaustion, or worldly distractions. Consistency and purpose is what separates those who remain from those who fall. And this consistency doesn't come from luck, but from the daily choice to stay aligned with the sacred mission. The true chosen one understands that their position is not a lifelong title, but a service that demands dedication and sacrifice. This means they must be willing to cut off habits, relationships, and thoughts that pull them away from their path. Being chosen does not mean living in comfort, but rather facing challenges that test faith and resilience. With every new spiritual level, new trials arise, requiring constant strengthening. Many fail because they treat their calling as a privilege rather than a responsibility. This mistake makes them vulnerable to silent downfalls, often irreversible. The chosen one must understand that divine protection is directly linked to their posture and daily actions. And if they stray, well, the world is full of examples of those who lost their mission due to negligence. But what exactly can strip someone of this status? Many believe that once chosen, they will always be chosen, but this is a dangerous illusion. The status of a chosen one is not a permanent right. It is conditional and depends on continuous alignment with the divine purpose. Just a small deviation is enough for the connection to start weakening. And the problem is that this distancing rarely happens all at once. It comes gradually, through small concessions, through habits that seem harmless but slowly undermine the essence of the mission. Spiritual discipline and humility are the pillars that sustain the chosen one, but when they are neglected, the calling begins to dissolve. Many people start their journey with strength and determination, but over time abandon essential practices such as prayer, meditation, and service to others. Without realizing it, they become disconnected from the divine, and by the time they finally notice, they are already too far away to hear the voice of their purpose. Another fatal mistake is spiritual pride. Some believe that because they have already received a calling, they no longer need to put in the effort to maintain it. This arrogance leads to downfall, as the true chosen one understands that their position requires constant vigilance. When a person feels too secure and stops seeking growth, they become vulnerable. The calling is not guaranteed. It must be reaffirmed. every day through actions that reflect commitment and dedication. And when someone loses this status, many times they don't even realize it. The lack of purpose, the feeling of stagnation, and the loss of spiritual energy are clear signs that something is wrong. A chosen one who does not take care of themselves can become just a shadow of what they were meant to be. But what else can threaten this sacred status? There are silent saboteurs that work tirelessly to pull people away from their purpose. The greatest dangers are not always the most obvious. In fact, what most threatens the chosen one are the silent saboteurs, those habits, thoughts, and influences that discreetly work to weaken their connection with the divine without them even realizing it. And the biggest trap? They don't come abruptly, but rather in a subtle way, infiltrating routines and thoughts until the person finds themselves completely off course from their mission. The ego is one of these invisible enemies. It hides behind praise, achievements, and even the desire to serve. A chosen one may start with a pure heart, but if they are not careful, recognition and influence can turn them into someone arrogant, someone who believes they already know everything and no longer needs to learn or improve. This disconnection from humility pulls them away from their original purpose, making them more vulnerable to downfall. Lack of discipline is also a treacherous saboteur. At first, it might be just one day without prayer, one night without meditation, one decision made without consulting their intuition. It seems like something small, but repetition creates a pattern. A chosen one who does not stay firm in their spiritual routine soon realizes that their strength starts to fade. And before they know it, they are spiritually weakened, lacking the clarity and energy that once drove them. Another major danger is external influences. Toxic people, negative environments, and even content that feeds fear and doubt can divert the chosen one from their mission. The enemy does not always present itself as a direct threat. Sometimes it comes disguised as friendship, good opportunities, or even well-intentioned advice. But the truth is, these small compromises, if left unchecked, can come at a high cost. And among all the saboteurs, there is one that stands out as a direct threat to divine connection. The ego is a treacherous and silent enemy. It disguises itself as confidence, security, and even spiritual authority. But deep down, it only pulls the chosen one away from their true purpose. When someone starts to see themselves as superior, believing they already know everything and no longer need to learn or improve, their downfall is only a matter of time. Spiritual arrogance disconnects a person from humility, which is precisely what keeps them on the right path. History is full of examples of spiritual leaders who started well but were consumed by their own ego. They began by serving, but little by little, they started craving recognition, control, and power. At first, they only wanted to guide others, but then they started feeding off the worship they received. This is the greatest danger of the ego. It turns a calling into a pedestal rather than a mission of service. And when that happens, the connection with the divine begins to fade. Many believe they can maintain their status as chosen ones, while cultivating pride, but the universe doesn't work that way. True spiritual strength comes from surrender, humility, and the recognition that every gift is a blessing that must be used wisely. When someone starts using their gifts for self-promotion, manipulation, or domination instead of service, they are already compromising their mission. The gift ceases to be a bridge to the divine and becomes a tool for vanity. Spiritual arrogance also blinds. It prevents a person from seeing their own mistakes and being open to continuous learning. And one thing is certain, those who stop learning stop growing. Pride hardens the heart, closes the ears, and causes a person to lose the sensitivity to hear the voice of their purpose. But the ego is not the only enemy of the journey. There is another saboteur that can be even more destructive. Lack of discipline. Discipline is the foundation of spiritual strength. Without it, even the strongest of the chosen ones become vulnerable. At first, maintaining a spiritual routine seems easy. Constant prayers, daily meditation, deep study. But over time, distractions start to appear, and commitment begins to fade. First, it's one day without practice, then a week. Before they realize it, their connection is weakened, and that inner fire that once guided their steps becomes a mere memory. Lack of discipline not only weakens spiritual energy, but also creates space for doubt, fear, and external influences. When someone stops strengthening their mind and spirit every day, they begin to absorb everything the world throws at them: negativity, anxiety, limiting beliefs. The chosen one must understand that their strength comes not only from faith, but from the consistent practice that sustains that faith. Spiritual alignment is not automatic, it is a daily practice. Great spiritual masters across all traditions have always emphasized the importance of discipline. Whether through prayer, fasting, meditation, or study, keeping the mind and heart focused on the mission is essential. An athlete doesn't win races without training. A warrior doesn't win battles without preparation. A chosen one cannot fulfill their mission without discipline. The connection with the divine requires consistency, and any pause can be the beginning of a separation that is difficult to recover from. But lack of discipline is not the only danger. The surrounding environment also plays a crucial role in the spiritual journey. It is useless to be internally aligned if external influences are constantly draining one's energy. And this is where toxic relationships and negative influences come in, capable of leading even the strongest of the chosen ones astray. Not all company is harmless. Many times, what drains a chosen one's spiritual energy is not life's major challenges, but the people and influences around them. Toxic relationships are dangerous traps because they are not always easy to identify. Some connections seem harmless, but little by little, they start undermining faith, planting doubts, and pulling the person away from their mission. The danger is not just in those who attack directly, but also in those who subtly divert the chosen one from their path. Negative friendships, family members who don't believe in the spiritual journey, partners who weaken faith. These influences can be more destructive than any declared enemy. The problem is that many people insist on maintaining these ties out of fear of loneliness or the belief that they can change the other person. But the truth is, if someone constantly drains your energy, questions your purpose, or weakens your discipline, they are not an ally, but an obstacle. Setting boundaries is essential. The chosen one must protect their energy and purpose with the same seriousness with which they protect their life. This means distancing themselves from environments and people who do not contribute to their growth. If a conversation always ends in negativity, if a presence always causes confusion, or if a relationship always generates emotional exhaustion, it is a sign that something needs to change. The calling is far too precious to be put at risk by external influences, and the great truth is that many times it is not just others who sabotage the chosen one. Fear and doubt are also internal enemies that can paralyze anyone. It is useless to have discipline and good influences if, when it comes time to act, the chosen one allows themselves to be dominated by fear. And this is the next great challenge that can pull someone away from their purpose. Fear is one of the greatest enemies of a chosen one's mission. It doesn't arrive screaming, nor does it impose itself in an obvious way. It seeps into thoughts, uncertainties, and the small doubts that grow day by day. First, it is a question about one's own abilities. Then, a hesitation before taking an important step. Before they realize it, the chosen one is already paralyzed, unable to move forward, suffocated by their own insecurities. Doubt is just as dangerous as fear. It corrodes confidence and makes a person start questioning whether they were truly called to this mission. Am I worthy? What if I fail? What if I'm just fooling myself? These questions are like seeds that, if not uprooted, grow and suffocate any sense of purpose. The chosen one must understand that faith is not just about believing in the divine, but also about believing that they were prepared for this journey. Overcoming fear and doubt requires action. Thought alone does not break these barriers. Only movement can. The chosen one who moves forward, even without having all the answers, strengthens their spiritual connection and proves their trust in the calling. Great spiritual leaders faced moments of uncertainty, but they did not let that stop them from fulfilling their mission. The secret is not in the absence of fear, but in the ability to move forward despite it. But there is something even more dangerous than fear: the misuse of spiritual gifts. If the chosen one is not careful, they may end up using their strength in the wrong way, completely disconnecting from the divine purpose. And this mistake can come at a high cost. Spiritual gifts are powerful blessings, but they also come with great responsibility. When used correctly, they serve to illuminate paths, heal wounds, and strengthen those in need. But when they are misused, out of ego, manipulation, or personal gain, the chosen one disconnects from the divine and loses their essence. Many have fallen into this trap, confusing mission with self-promotion, service with self-interest, and spirituality with power. History is filled with examples of people who started with good intentions but were corrupted by the misuse of their gifts. Some use their abilities to control others, to feed their own pride, or even to gain material advantages. The problem is that the further someone strays from their original purpose, the more their spiritual energy deteriorates. The gift still exists, but it stops being a bridge to the divine and instead becomes a trap for the soul. A gift only makes sense when it is used in service of a greater good. The true chosen one understands that their power does not exist solely for their own benefit, but to transform the world around them. They do not seek recognition or status, but rather impact and evolution. Those who use their gifts only to elevate their own image may shine for a while, but that shine is false and temporary, and sooner or later the fall comes. That is why staying aligned with the sacred path requires awareness, humility, and daily commitment. The mission of a chosen one is intense, full of challenges and trials. But those who maintain discipline, faith, and a connection with the divine find a purpose that transcends any difficulty. The question is, are you willing to protect this calling and honor your mission? If you've made it this far, you already know that being chosen is a responsibility that demands daily attention and commitment. Ego, lack of discipline, negative influences, fear, and the misuse of spiritual gifts can take away your status before you even realize it. But now you have the knowledge needed to protect yourself from these traps and maintain your connection with the divine. The question now is, what will you do with this information? Will you ignore it and continue taking risks? Or will you take action to strengthen your mission? Leave a comment sharing which of these 5 threats you feel you need to overcome the most. And if this video resonated with you, share it with someone who also needs this warning. And of course, if you want to keep receiving deep teachings like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we talk about purpose, spiritual growth, and everything you need to stay aligned with your mission. See you in the next video.